All right, guys, welcome to Isaiah 15. Not even going to beat around the bush on this one. We're going to jump right into this because I want to, well, before anything changes, I'd like to finish this book if possible. So we'll see. So we're going to jump right into it and get this done. And if I get some downtime here in the future, I may sit down and film a whole bunch of these and set them all to go. I don't know. We'll see. We'll let the Lord lead on all this stuff because when He leads, it goes into a great place and we make great discoveries. Like the morning and evening devotional. That's incredible. I love it. So we'll see if this is going to continue to be an encouragement for all of us. So Isaiah 15, you guys already know where we are in this. If not, go back and watch the previous video. This is the proclamation against Moab. The burden against Moab. And you've already seen that we're seeing a lot of tribulation talk. Now, again, this stuff, for the most part, I guess, was fulfilled back during this time. But there's a lot of prophets don't speak of current times in as much as they speak of future times. That's why they're a prophet. So there's a lot of future talk here. And you can clearly see that in the wording. Let's see what else we got, because I think we're going to see quite a bit. The burden against Moab, because in the night Ar of Moab is laid waste and destroyed. Because in the night Ker of Moab is laid waste and destroyed. In the night it's going to happen. He has gone up to the temple and Dibon, to the high places to weep. Moab will wail over Nebo and over Medeba. On all their heads will be baldness, and every beard is cut off. In their streets they will clothe themselves with sackcloth. On the tops of their houses and in their streets everyone will wail, weeping bitterly. Heshbon and Elealeh will cry out. Their voice shall be heard as far as Jahaz. Therefore the armed soldiers of Moab will cry out. His life will be burdensome to him. My heart will cry out for Moab. His fugitives shall flee to Zoar. Like a 3-year-old heifer, for by the ascent of Luhith, they will go up with weeping. For in the way of Horonaim, they will raise up a cry of destruction. For the waters of Nimrod will be desolate. For the green grass has withered away. The grass fails, there is nothing green. Therefore the abundance they have gained, and what they have laid up, they will carry away to the brook and the willows. For the cry has gone all around the borders of Moab. It's wailing to Eglim, and it's wailing to Beer Elim. For the waters of Dimon will be full of blood, because I will bring more upon Dimon, lions upon him who escapes from Moab, and on the remnant of the land. This is utter destruction, but it's not war. Notice it's not talking about war. It's talking about destruction. It literally says that right here in the very first verse. It's destruction. This is judgment. This is clearly judgment. And nothing good is going to come out of Moab. Nothing good is going to happen to Moab. Now, I find it interesting. There's a particular city here mentioned, and it is Zoar. There it is right there in verse 5. I believe Zoar is where Lot and his daughters stopped. Or maybe that was Zohar. I don't know. It could be the same one. But when they left, that city was destroyed too because they found it. It's over there in the city of the plains. It's destroyed too. Nothing survived. Because when you look at the story of Lot and the daughters make this proclamation when they're in a cave, they make this proclamation there's no men in the land for them to have as husbands. Why? Well, the only area they know is that area right there. Those girls were probably born there. So all the men that they knew that were available were the men that were in the city, Sodom, the men in Gomorrah, the other plain cities, and the one they stopped at, Zoar. So for them, all the men were destroyed because all those cities were destroyed. There's nothing out there, nothing left. So I'm wondering if this is talking about that. I think it is. So this would kind of timestamp it a little bit to the back in the past. But when we look at a lot of what this is saying here, like verse 5, for by the ascent of Luhuth they will go up with weeping. For in the way of Horonium they will raise up a cry of destruction. I don't think this was something that happened in the past. I think I mean, there may be an aspect of it, but this smacks of future. Look at verse 6. For the waters of Nimrod will be desolate, for the green grass is withered away, the grass fails, there is nothing green. In the tribulation, it says that the sun is going to be so hot it's going to burn a third of the grass and trees. Just burn them right up, because the sun's too hot. Well, look at what the sun's doing now. There's no surprise what's going on there. That's exactly what's going to happen. They're talking about a major geomagnetic storm event happening in 2025. Well, how amazing. When we do the math, it leads us to the year 2025. The Bible says the sun is going to shine so bright that men are going to step out in the daylight and get burned by it. Like instantly. There's no surprise that all these things are coming to pass. No surprise that we see a lot of the stuff being mentioned here in this old book. Because that future time is what all those men back then were looking towards. We know this is a time happening at the end of all the ages. And we know there's going to be, these men knew, God told them, even if they didn't write it, but some of them did, that their books were for a time of the end, for a people that would be at that time. And there's some instances where God specifically said, this is for a people not at this time, but in a future time. This book is for them specifically. Daniel. All of Daniel. None of Daniel was for back then. Even though a lot of it reads about and talks about certain events that were going to happen. Well, everybody was aware of that. They were watching for that. And before even Daniel started talking about it. But they tell him in multiple places in Daniel, seal up this book. This isn't for you or your people. This is for a future people. This is for the time of the end. That generation will understand your book even if you and nobody around you does. A lot of cases nobody understood. And for generations and generations, nobody understood the book of Daniel. Until about 10 years ago. When all of a sudden, all these people started realizing, wait a minute. This makes sense now. I can see what this is now. And more and more and more of those books that people had written off saying that's a past prophecy that's been fulfilled, they're now realizing, wait a minute, that's a future prophecy. And when you go read those books and look at the script, most of it's at the end of every chapter, it literally says this is for a future time, not yours. These haven't been fulfilled yet. Isaiah's the same way. We take Isaiah as it's already been fulfilled. I say partial fulfillment. Because when I read this, it immediately reminds me of scriptures in the book of Revelation. Matthew 24, Matthew 25, Luke. So we have a future outcry here in the book of Isaiah. The people back then understood to a degree, but I think there's so much more here. And this is another one of those books is for future people, us. And how amazing we have it right here at our disposal to teach us and to show us what's coming. And it is a warning to anyone who would think that they would go into the tribulation. I recommend nobody does, but it's not my choice. Guys, tomorrow is going to be Isaiah 16, Moab destroyed. And this one's going to get even more detailed, to say the least. I love the first verse. Send the lamb to the ruler of the land, from Selah to the wilderness, to the mount of the daughter of Zion. I wonder if that's Jesus. We'll find out. Guys, that was Isaiah 15. I love you all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.